Is everybody ready?
Look at the baby. I miss my Oreo. I'm ready.
Where's Steph?
Oh yeah, are we doing this without Stephanie? Because I'm down.
I'm ready.
Can you sit on the mic? Let's go, Steph.
Got dropped.
It's your favorite primas.
We're here.
Favorite primas.
It's your favorite prima.
What am I supposed to say?
We're back. Before we go into our next tape, I want to say thank you to all the listeners who listened to our podcast that came out last week.
All right, guys. So are you guys ready for tape number 2? So here I'm passing the mic to the person who still lives with their mom.
Hey, she lives with me. That was rude. I took offense. But hey, guys, it's me. I am here and I am ready to give out all the information that you are asking of me. A few little fun facts about me is I love black, all things black. Yeah,
Even your men?
black men. I'm super into horror, and I'm just a easygoing, fun-loving individual that loves to be out in them streets. But other than that, I'm ready. I'm ready for these questions. How old are you? I am officially 33 years old.
Damn.
Just kidding. You're old. Hey, I'm seasoned. Seasoned. I turned 33 on May 21st, so I kick off Gemini season every year. The party starts with me, as per usual.
And 33 is an angel number too.
Oh, I am quite the angel.
Can you introduce your fur babies to us?
All right. This is Alexandre. She licks her paw. No, I have 2 Great Danes, a black and a brown one, Bagheera and Duncan. Bagheera is my favorite. For those of you that say neglect Duncan, it's not true. Me and Bagheera just have this bond.
It's true.
He's the
Is he your
firstborn.
first?
Yeah, moms always have preference over the firstborn favorite.
Facts.
Not if the second is the boy.
Oh,
In
you're
a Mexican household, yeah.
Yeah.
I won't add anything to that.
We all know it, Val. We all know it.
And Alyssa.
Sorry.
But I am the oldest, so I could attest that I'm always the favorite.
I guess. I mean, you were their kid when they were still kids,
That's
I
true.
mean,
It's a different.
Yeah, like they grew up with you,
You have an
basically.
unfair advantage.
So technically I'm the favorite because they wanted me.
Whatever makes y'all feel better.
No, you were just the last accident. After you, they were like, no, we ain't making that mistake again.
All parents have a favorite child. All parents.
What happens when there's 3, but only 2 parents?
That's where middle child syndrome comes into play. And Vivian is the middle child.
I am your typical middle child. I am, and I'm proud. I say it loud, I'm proud. I came out as a middle child maybe like 3 years ago, and ever since then, I never try to hide that again.
So proud of you.
It was really hard for me to accept, but middle children everywhere are just, they're just not
Be noticed.
Yes, and then they're not able to just speak about it, but I speak in my truth, and
The first step is admitting the problem.
You're so brave. I'm sure all the middle children out there really appreciate this right now.
I am an advocate for that. Thank you.
Vivi, are you single?
Depends who asking. You know somebody? Kidding. I am not. Although I do feel like a lot of people think I am. I am not single. I am in a relationship for the day.
On Sundays.
What do you mean by that? Because I feel like when people are like, I feel like I act single or I seem like I'm single, like some people may take that as like I'm out here like pretending to be single, ready to mingle, or elaborate?
Depends how many drinks I've had. But
Like
just
every other
kidding.
week.
No, I just feel like I do a lot of things alone, or not because she doesn't want to, but there's things that I feel like in relationships you should be doing things by yourself a lot, or things that I like she doesn't necessarily like to do. Like I do enjoy being out with friends and stuff like that, and she's not necessarily a social person. Like she doesn't like big social events. So in those environments, I do go alone, and I feel like a lot of people that only see me in those environments are like, I didn't know you were with somebody. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind doing things alone. I like it. I think we all should.
It has to do with you being neglected as a middle child.
And I was gonna say, if anybody ever has a question, what is a Gemini like? The soundbite of that question. That's all they need to hear.
Just that I feel like I've been in relationships where I do everything with the person, and at the end of the day, you can't take that person everywhere with you, especially when things end, and then you're like, well, who am I? So I do enjoy being my own person and doing things without necessarily having to like run it by somebody, or like I don't like that type of relationship, and I'm happy to say that I'm not in one of those relationships. So
That's good.
yeah. That sting a little, or
Maybe Felix said, I'm clearly alone. Thank you for reminding me.
Talking about you and your other personality.
True.
You running by her?
Who did you first come out to?
Me, myself, and I. No, well, yeah, you have to admit it to yourself before you can admit to anybody else. But I don't remember like telling one person, like, oh, I'm gonna tell this person and this is gonna be it. But I do know that my best friends from high school were one of the only people to know at one point. So it had to have been them, Janina and Brittany. I remember like we even had this notebook, because back then you would write notes, right? So like we would write notes in a notebook to each other and hand off this notebook to each of us like during classes or in between classes. And I remember, yeah, we even had like code words for my lesbian situation, like code names. Like we even named ourselves different things. Like they called me Miss Cabbage because of an old picture of mine. And like we would just have like secret names in case we lost our notebook. Like nobody would know. But yeah, so it was probably Brittany and Janina. Yeah.
Ever struggle with family members or friends accepting you because of your sexuality?
Nobody that matters, honestly. And nothing was said to my face or has ever been said to me. Things that I've heard people say. So nothing that matters, honestly. Then these have always been people that like are married to my actual aunts and uncles. So their opinion was never one I valued.
Did you have to come out to family members like individually, or was it just you were out and we just all knew?
Well, I feel like at first I wasn't like, no, I didn't care about ever telling anybody. Like it didn't matter to me. But one time, I guess one of my aunts saw something, or somebody saw something that told her. So since then she brought it to my mom's attention, and then my mom is just one of those people that wanted clarity, I guess. So I she asked me one day, she had already asked me once, I think, and I would just blow it off because I was like 18 or younger. And then I think after I was like 18, 19, she did ask me like again. And then I was just like tired, I was just like, okay, like, yeah, like what else do you want from me, So that was that. And then I think she went and told everybody, because I don't remember being like, hey, look, grandma, like,
You just didn't ever feel the need to talk about it, or did you genuinely feel like not comfortable talking about it?
I didn't feel comfortable because there was nobody still, I don't know, nobody that I knew in my family like that. And then I feel like at that time, it was harder. Like not a lot of people were out and open like that, like there were in my school, obviously, but like everyday people, like family members, older people, I didn't know. So I didn't ever like feel a need to want to tell anybody. Like I was like, oh, I'm just gonna live my life and like like I would go out a lot with my friends and I didn't feel like I had to explain who I was gonna be with or what I was doing, you know. But once my mom asked me and all that, I was like, okay, well, like I'll just tell you. But I didn't really feel the need to explain to everybody my business. I mean,
Right.
you know,
And
I
like,
actually remember like mom calling me to tell me, and I felt like I wasn't even surprised. I was like, okay, like I've already known
I do
this.
feel like you were probably the one I didn't want to. I was like most scared to tell
Why?
because I feel like at that time you were very mean, and I didn't know. Like
That time
Don't hit me.
still am.
like I felt, or like I always felt like I didn't want to like upset you or something, or I didn't want you not to accept me. I guess because I mean you're literally like
Your best friend.
my best friend since we were little. So like you
Chopped
know,
liver.
you're chopped liver. So like when you grow up and you become your own like human person or whatever, you get different personalities, different interests.
Mhm.
I didn't know how like you would take that, you know.
I think we did have a very love-hate relationship growing up. Like I do feel like I've always known, and I feel like I would have made comments to you, and like I always feel so bad about it. Like I always tell, like I always like would tell people like how I would feel bad because I feel like I did know, but then I feel like I was very ignorant and stupid. And I feel like the comments I would make to you is when I was mad at you. And I feel like I would make comments to you about that. And then I feel like I do feel like so awful about it.
I don't remember,
Oh,
honestly,
well.
so good.
It's just my own guilty conscience.
Traumatized.
This is what I thought in my head.
But I also
never said it.
I also feel like back then, like it wasn't like there weren't like those social norms where you're like, you can't say that, like don't
Right.
like that, you know? And then like so things you said probably other people were saying, you know, and it's like, oh well, that's what you get used to that with
Like,
that type of
I actually do not remember like ever thinking any other way. I just always thought like, oh, she likes just people. Like,
Because that is,
yeah, I never
if you don't mind me
thought-
talking about it, but that is kind of what you said, is that I remember that specifically. You were very like, I just don't feel like I need to tell people, like, I don't know, like I could be with a girl, I could be with a guy. Like, I just
Mhm.
love people for who they are.
yeah.
And that's the kind of people I want to be with. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think like that's really great. And I think maybe that's why sometimes maybe it wasn't felt like you had to validate it, because it was like, well, I just like people. Like I don't
Yeah.
have to like be
Mhm.
like, oh, I only like this or I only like that, or like, you know.
That's how I always remember you. I never even like, oh, she came out. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
news to me.
Label or anything.
Yeah.
And Vivi, do you feel like you knew really young that you liked girls? Because I've been boy crazy since I was in preschool. I still remember the first boy I was in love with. Do
I
you
don't
remember that?
think so because like I think kids now do get talked to about it, but when
Mhm.
I was young, they didn't even that wasn't even a possibility. You know, I didn't even know it was something that people do. So it was not in my
Yeah.
head. But I do remember always like having a best friend like that I was super close to since young. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Just a little on that question. I know you answered or you talked about it on your other podcast, but maybe this audience hasn't heard it and we didn't get to weigh in. But that whole concept of why do you have to come out and tell everybody, give them a label and sit each person down and hey, this is what my preference is and this is why and whatever. And have a
It's so
full
dumb
thing.
if you think about it because they're like, oh, how did you come out or when did you come out? It's like, why do I have to? Like, why do
Right.
I have to sit? Like, when did we ever say, Valerie, hey, what is your sexual preference? Tell us now. Like, no, it's stupid.
Right. Well, everybody just knew because I was boy crazy, but I do understand what you're saying.
No, like
Yeah.
straight
Yeah.
people don't have to,
Have to come
like,
out.
Yeah, nobody sits them down. And on that point too, Valerie, I feel like because you ran so I could walk, Vivi. Just kidding. But 'cause I'm bisexual also, but I don't remember when you're little, the only thing that they talk about is what boy do you have a crush on, right?
Right.
So that's normal. If you have feelings for anything else, you don't have words for it. You don't
Mhm.
like nobody ever explained that, so you don't even think anything of that.
you learn to push it to the side, or like, oh, that's not real, you know,
Yeah,
like
that's silly.
yeah.
So it's hard to even have the same experience that a straight person would have had growing up.
Right.
Do you ever see yourself getting married, you Gemini?
Hard no. Hard no. Just kidding. I don't think it's necessary. Like, I think you can be committed and love somebody and be like 100% into it without marriage. And I don't think marriage is necessary to admit that, you know, or to show that. I do think marriage, in my opinion, kind of complicates things because things happen. Like, obviously you can feel one way and then you get married and then things change, and then what? Now you have this permanent decision you made that you'll have to undo, and then on top of a breakup, which is already very emotional and hard, you still have to go through the whole financial divorce, you know. So I don't think it's necessary. I think you can act married and still be happy, or like you can even say you're married, right? But to actually do it and make this permanent decision just for things to maybe not work out, you know, it's like I feel like it might end up being a waste. And that's just the reality I feel in these days.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess my only concern is, and not just because of the way the United States is set up, is that in your situation, if God forbid something were to happen to you, your partner wouldn't have any rights or say in, like, if you're in the hospital or if you have a inheritance or whatever, that they just wouldn't have a right to any of that unless you got married.
We all know I would be the decision maker for all of Vivi's issues.
you say that's where the problem would be.
Everyone out now.
Unplug it. Go for it.
No, not even.
But I know, like, I mean, in my like specific situation, like in my life insurance and stuff, I do have a portion going towards her if something were to happen. But
Right.
those things I guess you can control, or just taking care of it on a different
A different legal matter.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Like,
I think, and this could just be my opinion, but I think mine and your version of mom and dad is very different than Alex San. I really feel that way. Like, I think Alex San got like the stable, the great mom and dad. Not to say that we got a bad version, because my mom is literally
I mean, they were young.
like,
they were very young. Your
yeah, my
parents were
mom's
very
literally
young.
an angel. There's no one like her. I feel like I'm probably will never be half the person, an amazing woman she is. I'll cry about it, like, for real.
Shout out to
But
Lori.
yes, but I do think like me and you probably saw a lot of like maybe the bad and then them just going
like,
through it.
we know too much.
Yeah. That maybe to us we're like, oh heck no. Like, and I think I actually do feel like Alex San did get like the steady, you know, mom and dad. And if you think about it, I feel like Alex San's in like a great relationship and married, and they love each, and you can see it.
Yeah,
you see that like from her partner and everything. And I think it's so beautiful. And I think me and you don't really have that view, you know. I mean, not just say, because I feel like I think marriage is beautiful, and I do hope like I do experience that one day. But maybe I will always wonder if our environment changes that.
maybe. Like, I always think about my mom, and like, let's say her and my, because like, let's say her and my dad decided not to be together, like when we were younger, whatever. Like, we were always, I would think, well, what was she gonna do, you know? Like, she depended on him so much, and that's something I wouldn't want to have to do, like depend on someone financially, and because anything can happen.
But I
Like,
feel like those are little like trauma defenses that we don't know is a trauma defense, and we're
Yeah.
doing it because I honestly feel I am the way I am because of my mom. Because I feel like my mom like was always the one taking care of us, and I do feel like she didn't have like, she wouldn't, maybe not necessarily, I mean, obviously I don't want to speak for her and her story, but I don't feel like she probably felt like she could have ever been like, okay, I'm going to move on and I would be able to take care of my kids and all this, because she did 100% depend on him Like I feel like it was kind of like, I wouldn't say my dad was a macho Mexican or anything, but I feel like it was a very old school marriage where like the mom stays home, raises the kids, take care of the kids, and my dad was just working. And you know what I mean? So I do feel like sometimes my mom, but I don't think my mom was always like the happiest in that situation. And I feel like I always remember her telling me, like, you need to make sure you make your own money and you need to make sure you're independent and you're not relying on anybody. And I think that's exactly what I became. And in a way, it could have been a trauma defense. And I think for you, probably the same. And we don't know that it's kind of like a trauma response.
I agree, yes, but I also feel like at one point I did believe in marriage and I was about to get married once. Like I was in Vegas going to do it.
What?
And then I was
Oh
like,
my, we weren't
it was
invited.
And I
No.
wasn't going to be there?
no one was there. And
Surprise.
something just stopped me. Like I was like, let's just go. Like I was like, oh, let's just go gamble for a little bit longer, and just like change the
Mhm.
whole, which I'm glad it didn't happen, but I think after situations happen with certain like relationships, I just think like I'm never gonna put myself in a situation where I don't have my own things or know my own self
Right.
without that.
With my TikTok degree that I have and watch psychologists and stuff, it seems like a defense mechanism because you think not getting married is going to save you heartbreak when you go through a breakup. But Stephanie wasn't married and she's going through the same struggle that somebody getting divorced would go through. It still hurts just as bad.
I think what I don't want is like what Stephanie went through is the whole house thing. Like, what are we gonna do with our stuff? Or like where whose is this and who's taking this and all that. Like I would like
But Steph's not married.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
There's still those ties.
It's still the same. I mean,
Yeah, like,
I've known
regardless,
since I was little. Me and Valerie know I always wanted to be married. Like it's just a celebration of love. But I know it's up to preference. Me, I love the celebration. I don't think I'm doing it more like so he can have like my power of attorney or things like that. I just met him and I knew it. Like I'm gonna marry this guy.
Aw.
So that's just
Yeah.
how I feel.
And you trusted him.
Yeah.
I did. And I didn't even want to have kids till I was like past 30. I remember because I grew up the same way. Remember my mom and my aunt, don't depend on this man, don't depend on the man. Like, don't be the one who stays home and takes care, like make your own money. And I did for a very long time. This year changed that, but a little bit. But when I met him, like I do want to have his kids, like for sure. Like I do want to change, and that's why I had my kids.
Yeah. And I think that's an example of what Stephanie was saying. Like you have these trauma defense mechanisms that you develop. And Alex, you, even if you were hurt before, you still have this idea that you believe in marriage, right? And it can work with someone. Whereas if you have no role model, and that's not to say anything negative about who your role models were, it's just as kids, we take beliefs from that, whether we know it or not, right? So if like Vivi, you had a negative experience, somebody, and I'm the same way, so I'm not saying like you specifically.
Yeah.
For me, I have a negative experience, it just reinforces everything I believe. Whereas if I believe marriage was a good thing, I would be like, well, next one I'll get it.
But
it
then
just
like I feel
reinforces
like
it.
I'm not gonna make those decisions. So like I've been in this relationship for almost 4 years now, and I don't think we will ever not have our own places. Like we can stay together every night at one or the other, but I guess because of what I've been through, at the end of the day, I want to be able to have my own place to go to. Like, God forbid, there's this huge fight. What am I gonna do? Like I don't want to go sleep in my car. Like I've taken care of where I'm gonna sleep every night, no matter what happens. I don't want to be left out in the cold or have to be like, hey Alex, can I stay with you? Like
Right.
that stuff I don't want. I want my own space. Like I've been stayed at this house before, because of that. And I'm just like, I don't ever want to do that again.
I remember
I
that.
don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I feel like it's so cool now because you get to hear people are more open about their relationships. You get to hear all the different dynamics, and more people even sleep in separate rooms, or like you're saying, have different houses, and it doesn't make them any less of a couple that does it the traditional way.
What about kids?
I do feel like I've wanted kids always, or I've always known that or thought I was gonna have kids, but I feel like I'm getting old. Like, I don't know if I want to put my body through that, like, I don't know. Like, do I have enough energy to like raise a child? Like, I'm getting older. I don't know.
Well, we have seen you with your nieces and
She lasts a whole 10 minutes, a car ride.
I hold them by their feet. Like, I'm like, oh shit, don't fall. Like,
No, true story. They came out, they had all this trash in their hand. Like, I don't want Vivi to get mad that we got trash.
that's another thing. I'm like so like specific about how like my car, like inside, I don't like it to be dirty. And I don't like my room to have trash in it and things like that. So like the other day I took my nieces home from my aunt's house and oh my God. There was ice cream all over the seats. There was, oh my God, it was a mess. I was so mad. And then my niece was like, Vivian, can you roll the window down so I could throw my trash out? You're driving them to littering, Vivian. No, like, just put it on the side. It's because they were throwing cupcake all over the place. And I was like, don't throw trash everywhere. So they didn't want
my
to.
kids.
Yeah, it was your child that started it.
That's so
I
funny.
believe it.
Your
Not my
guys'
angels.
kids, your guys' kids separate, angels together.
Chucky's.
Different story.
I imagine so me and Steph were like separate, okay, but together. no.
I've actually heard that people never wanted to watch you guys because of that.
That's 'cause
I
he's
second that story.
like a 2 and a 4-year-old. Like, no thanks.
Mm-mm.
Don't ask me to
Specifically
babysit.
this 2 and 4-year-old.
And then Geminis.
It was like 4 of us.
Yeah, 3 of you and 1 of me.
Get a little bit deep. So, how has losing your dad changed your life?
Oh, in so many ways, I feel like I don't think you really value somebody's presence until it's no longer there. Like, if you would have asked me before he died how close I was to him, I would be like, I mean, like whatever. But now that he's gone, I feel like, oh shit, like I didn't realize all the things that I was gonna miss, or like how much we spoke, or like just little everyday things like watching the games. It's not the same, or like not being able to help my mom with things that I don't know how to do, or like things like with the dogs, like putting up a fence, like things like that. Like, not that he would necessarily do it himself, but
We could figure it out.
figure out a way to do it. And it's not that I can't reach out to like uncles and stuff, but it's not their job,
And it's not the same.
Yeah. Or like things with my car, like, hey dad, like help me with this. And like, well, now I gotta really grow the fuck up and do these things for myself. And like, I don't know. And then with my mom going through this, like she went through the loss of her 35-year-old partner, it's not like I want to put anything on her plate either. So I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, like it feels lonely, even though like I have so much family around, it's just like a void that's never gonna go away, so it's hard.
I even think as a family, I don't think we realized.
Yeah.
Like even not even just our immediate family, but I think like the entire, like even his side of the family. Like I feel like he was definitely like the one who
The
like
glue.
put everyone together, you
The
know?
glue, definitely. And then like I remember speaking to his sister like on his funeral, like where she said like, I don't want you guys to stop coming over or visiting. And like you're like, no, of course not. But it's never been the same, like we don't visit as much as we used to. But I mean, they're definitely there for us, as much as they can be, but it is different. I feel like we're all going through this loss and it's not necessarily the easiest to navigate through, so
You know,
hard.
it's been like
2
2
years.
years.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. So
yeah, and it's super tough still.
yeah, you just gotta, life goes on and you have to get up and do things every day because there's people in our lives that need us and we can't just dwell on it. And if I feel like if I show that I'm like hurting or like missing him or something, like my mom will notice, you know, and then like, I don't know, that's something I don't want to have her worry about. And I'd rather just like feel like happy for my mom. Like I don't want her, even though I know like my mom, especially during the holidays, like she doesn't necessarily want to do the things like she used to. Like I felt like putting up the tree the other day, like was like she was kind of upset about, you know, and because the holidays are coming and what that means, you know. But I just feel like you have to try to make things happy for that person. Like it's okay. Like we all feel the void at this time, you know.
And I think like that's something that gets me through a lot is I feel like what I think about is like I think about like, well, like I don't think my dad wants to see us like all super sad all the time. Like because then he's not gonna be at peace.
Yeah.
And I remember like even when he was passing, like that's the one thing I told my mom to make her get up and be like, okay, it's gonna be okay. Because I told her and I was like, you have to be okay and you have to let him go knowing that we're all gonna be okay. Because then he can't go like this. He can't go like knowing like we're just a wreck, even though we are, you know. But I'm like, I feel like that's what makes me go and make me keep going in a positive and happy manner is that he like that we're all happy and we're still living life because I think that's what meant the most to him because I feel like I'm someone who struggled a lot, like I feel like I was a lot like my dad. I am a lot like my dad and it's kind of scary sometimes. Like I think sometimes I feel like just sadness like for no reason or like this, and then I always remember like 2 weeks before he went into the hospital, I feel like I came over and I was in such a good mood. Like you always say, like, oh, I don't want you to be mad at me. When he said that, come on, like people always think I'm just like mad and angry, like, you know, and I feel like I did live a lot of my life like that. And I always remember this note he wrote me because he wasn't even in the best place at that time. And I came over and I was in such a good mood, but I really think it's because I was day drinking. But he literally wrote me like a post-it note and he was like, I love to see you happy. You know what I mean? And I always think about that. And I always think about how that's what he wants for like all of us is to be happy and like move forward that way. So
Actually, I have like an opposite of that. The last time I ever actually got to speak to him, I was mad at him. And I think that just, I dream about it like every night of like how I would have changed that whole thing. And when I went to the hospital, like he couldn't really talk anymore. So it was very like, it was like, I'm like, why couldn't I just have like, I never thought he was gonna leave us. So I think I wish I would have been that way, is where I was happy to see him, but he wasn't in the right mindset and it would always frustrate me. And it was like a month before my wedding. And you know, I I wish I could take it back and just give him like the biggest
No,
hug.
but you had so much like compassion for him throughout your whole life, and like we have to just continue like his legacy and keep creating memories for the kids, you know, like he left 4 granddaughters and we have to keep going the way he would have wanted it or do things the way he would have done things so that we keep his memory alive, you know. So
and
Yeah,
I
and
think
Alex, he knows you loved him. He knows.
you're his baby.
yes, for sure. You definitely were. And I actually think Vivian, like, I praise you a lot because I feel like you out of all three of us, and I think it's crazy because I feel like I am always the strong one. Like, you know, like I'll not cry or I'll not show emotion even though I want to. But I actually feel like you have like kept him alive so much. Like you really, really have, like even for the girls. Like I feel like with their birthday, like you gave them like a bear with her voice and all of this. And like and it's funny because like even Thea, which is my little one, like she always goes for the Chiefs. And when he was here, he would beg her to be
Yeah.
going for the Chiefs. And she'd be like, no, no, no. And now like she will not go for anyone besides the Chiefs. And I always ask her, she's like, it's because it's my grandpa's team.
Yeah.
And I feel like you keep that alive for them, or even like all the things you have for him there at the house. Like, I feel like he's always like a present in your everyday life. And I feel like you keep him very much alive. And I feel like I love you for that. Because I think like my family, we are very like, don't talk about things and we like kind of hide our emotions and don't really. And I feel like you have made us come out of that. So I love you for that.
I love it. And
I
all the
love me too.
videos you have. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
And all the videos you have of him, because I like looking through my phone. I don't have a lot of him and videos, and I just love going into when you post it on Snapchat or
Like the memories.
and I just keep it. And I'm like, I have one video on my Ring camera of him because that's like one of the last ever videos I have seen him like alive, like in my phone, and I have that's like the only one. Thank you.
I do feel like when I was younger, I didn't have the best relationship with him.
You
Like,
didn't.
I didn't really acknowledge him a lot, you know, because I don't know, like things that we went through as a family, I guess. And I was so close to my mom as a child that I was like upset for her when she was upset or when things would happen, so that I felt like a lot of anger towards him when I was little. But I do remember as an adult getting along with him a lot. Like as I was like 20 or something, like I felt like closer to him, or like I would always defend him from my mom. Like I would always tell my mom, "You're so mean. Like stop being mean to him," you know? And I know she would like fight with me about it. I'm not mean. I was like, "Yeah, you're mean to him." And so like things like that. I'm like, I definitely got closer to him as an adult, you know? Like, I don't know. So
Like it's crazy. The parents like changed throughout the years, you know, because I felt like when I was young, I was close to my dad, and I feel like I would fight a lot with my mom. And then I feel like once I like, especially when I became a mom, I feel like I was always more on my mom's side, and I would fight a lot with my dad. And Alexandra, if I were you, I wouldn't feel bad because my actual last conversation with dad was very much like that. Like it was like I hung up on him, like because I was mad. Like, you know what I mean? But I feel like he knows, you
yeah,
know.
for sure. You find the most comfort in bed with my blanket.
Lola blanket.
Lola.
Yes, I've had this blanket since I was like 9 or something. It's Lola Bunny from Space Jam. But like, yeah, like I do find a lot of comfort being in my own space, you know, like with the TV on, not even watching it, but just, you know, and then I also have a lot of comfort in like having like those after work conversations, like with my partner. Like we work in similar like jobs, so we always give each other advice about our days, or like give pep talks to each other when we've had a bad day, things like that. And we just like, oh, it's gonna be okay. Like just do this, we'll be fine tomorrow. And that gives me comfort, just little talks like that.
Have you seen those TikToks of Lola Bunny where a bunch of girls are like, that should have been my sign I was a lesbian when I had a crush on Lola Bunny?
Well, there we go.
So you knew this whole time now.
Valerie was just waiting for you to come out.
I love Lola Bunny.
Okay, what is your perfect day off?
It's so funny because when my sisters both had a job, I always felt
Thanks.
like I had to hide my days off from them, because I always thought that they were gonna have something for me to do. So like they would ask me, "Are you off?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I might be. Like I have to see if I'm off," because I just felt like they always had plans for me, even if it wasn't even like a chore. You know, it was like, "Oh, let's go do this," but I was like, I don't. My perfect day off would be not to have a schedule, like a time constraint, you know, because I feel like I always have something to do. Like I don't even have kids, and I feel like I'm always doing something. Like I never have a moment to myself, you know? So it would be to like wake up and not have anything to do, be able to do what I need around the house real quick or whatever. And then I do love to go to lunch. That's when I can invite you guys. That's when you guys can be included in my day.
She doesn't invite us to lunch. We actually invite her to lunch
Whatever.
all the time.
Actually follow her around like, oh, she's stopping.
They accidentally run into me at the restaurant.
But that is very true. And I think it's just such a middle child thing. Like, I really do feel like you rarely ever invite us anywhere. And I do feel like anytime I ask you anything, I'll even send her memes. And I feel like it is like a middle child thing. Like, I'll be like, oh, like, are you off today? And you'll be like, I don't know why. like she's like, I have to find out why you want to know if I'm off.
I'm at the spa and I'm like, no, Gotta work right after this.
Vivian, I'm watching you right now.
But I do love to go to the movies. I do like I try to go to the movies like once a week, once every 2 weeks. Yeah, I love going to the movies. And I do enjoy day drinking from time to time, but I lost my day drinking friends, so I don't really do that often anymore.
Gets your chopped liver.
You could day drink at my house.
So true. Do you go to the movies by yourself?
No, I have been like once or twice, but no, my mom really likes to go to movies too.
True,
So
true.
usually with my mom.
Well, they sell beer there,
I know.
so you can combine your two favorite things.
I took my mom to go watch the Christmas Vacation. They had like a viewing party at Alamo Draft House. It was so fun.
Oh, the Alamo is so good. I have one right here. Do you eat their fried pickles?
They are the best.
Love.
They're the best fried pickles.
I don't remember what I ate, but I did eat there. Oh, I had pizza. It was good.
Oh, it's good.
And then since it was a Christmas story, or not the Christmas story, Christmas Vacation, they had like an eggnog chugging contest, and we won.
Oh, that's cool.
So, what about work? What is like a funny story?
Oh my god.
Or worse.
I
Or
just feel
worse.
like things happen to me. I don't control what the universe has out there for me. I do have a couple stories that really stick out to me. At the time, this one wasn't really funny because I got fired, but
It is.
I already know what you're gonna say. I already know.
it just shows how I'm a very protective person. This person could just be my employee, and I hear someone like talking like rudely to them, I'm upset, or like I'll go like interject myself, so I'm just like very protective person. And so at the time I was working fast food. This was my first job. I've met so many people at this job that are still in my lives very much to this day. So at that time, I had like 3 best friends that would work with me, and we were all there together. And my friend was taking an order through the drive-through, and this customer and her just weren't like seeing eye to eye from the beginning. And I had nothing to do with this. Like I was just watching from the side. I wasn't the one taking the order or anything. Like I was just there. And I guess something happened and then the customer was a teenager in the drive-through, and she got upset and threw something small at my friend. So there I go. And then I'm like, she's all, give them their drinks. I'm not gonna do this. And then I was like, okay. So then I was gonna give her a drink, but the girl drove off. So I don't know why I threw the drink. I threw the drink out the window, and I thought it was just gonna hit the car or whatever. No, she still had her window down, and it went inside. It went inside the car, and like she came back pissed off, full of Sierra Mist, large Sierra Mist all over her. She came back to the window; it was still open, and she threw the other soda back inside the restaurant. And then my boss had to come in, and I had to watch the video of myself throwing something and then running away
They're
laughing.
like, was this you?
And I was like, they're like, what is that? Because you could just see the shadow of something being thrown. Like you can't necessarily see me. You just see something like come out of my hand.
You're like, it wasn't me.
And I was like, I don't know if that's throwing something. Like, must have been a bird. And
Did they let you keep it, the video?
no, this was like 2008, Val. Like
Oh,
it wasn't like on a CD or something, but
okay.
yeah. And then I was
Val probably doesn't know what a CD is.
So yeah, I guess I know the words were like, you cannot work for us anymore. And I was like, damn, okay.
Absolutely cannot.
Lesson learned, drive with your windows up.
Right away.
But we
After
wouldn't
you piss
have
someone off.
this story.
Yeah, it was definitely a funny story.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, because I feel like well, first of all, don't ever throw something at an employee.
Right.
You never know what the one watching is gonna do. And second of all, I needed to get out of that job, like
Yeah.
I'm not still be there.
So thank you, rude girl with the
Yes.
Sprite.
Thank you, rude
Her mom
teenager.
was named Isabel.
What has been your favorite age so far?
Favorite age? I really enjoyed turning 30. It was great. Like I'm in my 30s now, and it kind of has gone downhill since my first year in the 30s, but I was so excited to turn 30. I think it was like a new chapter in my life. Like I talk about this whole being in my own individual and independent and things like that. And I feel like at that age is when I decided I was gonna be like that. Like I just one day was like, because I would feel like I would dwell on, oh, I want to find somebody, or like revolve my whole happiness around that. And I think when I turned 30, I was like, no, like I'm gonna live the life I want to live, and why be with somebody that's even gonna not have me or help me be that person, not help me, but allow me to be that person.
Yeah.
So that was a good time in my life.
30, 30 and thrive.
I was. It's like because it was the beginning of the pandemic when I turned 30. I still had a good time. Having a good time. IRL.
Okay, we're gonna switch gears a little bit here, and I feel like you're gonna be honest because the way you answered that work story with
Okay.
a full different. So we want the tea, Vivi. What happened with your first podcast?
Oh my gosh. Those have been my best friends forever. Like, especially like Julie and me had this like relationship. Like we would talk, I feel like more than I talked to my sisters. Like I would talk for hours with Julie. Like we'd be in each other's ear at work and things like that. And I really thought it would be something fun to do, with my best friend. Like we've always had little like fights here and there, but for the most part, we always would get over it. So I thought it would be a good idea. It was Julie's idea to start the podcast. And at the end of the day, I didn't want to be involved in something that I was the only one 100% in on. That's nothing to take away from them because they all have things going on in their lives. Carla got married and Julie was going through a lot with work, and she was in between like positions and stuff like that. So she wasn't really available all the time. And when she was available, I don't feel like the priority was there. So I didn't want to be like, it's cool. Like if we're not going to do it, it's fine. I just didn't want to keep prolonging it or being like, oh, we're going to do it this day. And I'm
Or
like,
like a chore.
it felt like a chore. And I was like, it just needs to be very consistent if we're going to try to be successful at it and things like that. And I didn't want to be involved in something where I was the only one trying. So I do feel like Julie was a good asset in the whole podcast, and she has a lot of good ideas and things like that. I just don't think the time was right. So, I mean, she's always going to be very special to me, and hopefully we can talk about things soon. But for right now, that is on hold, that podcast.
They do say you're never supposed to move in with a best friend either.
Oh,
Like there are certain things that you're not supposed to do with your best friend because you don't want to risk.
it changes things. I think I told Alyssa that before she was going to move in with her roommate. I was like, I had a very bad experience when I moved in with my best friends.
I think it works out because so have I in the past. I lost friends from moving in with them, but this is working out because she doesn't actually live there. She just pays half the rent.
What sparked your interest in starting this podcast?
I do feel like even as a young person that I was super into or like interested in how like the radio hosts were, like the whole background of all that. So it's always been something like I've been curious about. And then when Julie like started talking about it, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then like my ideas just started flowing, and I was like, I so much wanted to be part of something where everybody was 100% in. And I feel like with this group, that's very much more a reality, and I feel like we can do a lot more because it's all of us putting ideas in, and all of us with, I guess, the motivation to want to.
I also love that I feel like I'm just getting to know you guys so much better than I already did.
I think we had like life happens, and I think we had like a large gap. Like I think us growing up, we're super close. Like we really, really were like best friends. Like we grew up like sisters. Like I think, and I don't know if that's like a Hispanic or Mexican thing, but I kind of think it is, where we're all in the house and like our families are like drinking and having a good time, and we're just kind of like go to the room and play, like, and like we would like choreograph dances together, and we would do like all this fun stuff. And I felt like we were very close, like growing up like that, and we were always together. And I really did feel like you guys were like my siblings, like, I feel like we very much grew up that way. And then I think like kind of like I know Val like moved away and stuff. And I think like as we got like as for me, because I'm the oldest, like I got older and like life happened for me. And I think we kind of like separated a little bit. So then kind of like who we became, like we kind of weren't necessarily all a part of that. Like, yeah, we
Right.
see each other and everything. And I think it's kind of awesome now because I feel like we're all in different chapters in our lives, like all of us are different. And I think that's what's going to make this podcast very unique is that there's probably like someone exactly like us in different realms of our lives. You know what I mean? So I think and I love that I am getting to know a lot of you guys a lot better. And I love that we like talk every day now and that we actually like make funny videos and funny memories together and make plans together. And I think it's so, so awesome.
This is just such a beautiful opportunity that we're getting with each other. Like it's technically we're forced because we're setting the time to get to know each other, but we're also coming here willingly and sharing.
You're gonna
what we
love
want
me,
to.
I promise.
I sat down with Grandma Lulu and my mom, I think Thursday night, to get a timeline, and they did confirm at some point in our childhood, we all lived together at Mr. D's and her house.
This is why I hate family time. Forced me to be around so many people at the time.
That's where the
I gotta
trauma
go.
Okay, last question. We kind of already answered why it's gonna be different, but why do you think this will be different about your other podcast or a different podcast?
Well, I mean, obviously the other podcast had a lot to do with lesbianism 101. So obviously that's not going to be all this is about. Obviously I'll have my own take in it. Alyssa can chime in also on her.
Half of me can.
Only half of her will be able to speak on it. So, and there's so much other stuff because I feel like me and Julie were a lot alike and we're both very mellow and there's so many different personalities in this group and we're all in different stages like Stephanie said, and we've all been through so much more things than me and Julie, because I feel like mine and Julie's story is kind of similar, but I just feel like there's no like cap on this one. Like there's so many possibilities and ideas, and I believe that we're going to execute.
No cap.
No
So
cap.
true.
Yes, those questions were good to answer. I'm glad you guys participated. Our next episode is going to be about the baby of my family, Alexanne. She's so excited, you can tell. And thank you guys for participating, like I said, and don't forget to follow us on our socials at the Prima Tapes. We are going to be posting, and we have already been posting daily, so it'd be nice to see more interactions, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah. And also don't forget to check out our video versions. We've been posting video clips on TikTok and Instagram. And on Tuesday, it'll also be on YouTube. So it'll be an extended version of what you hear here.
Boop, boop.
Woo.
Party time.
Bye.
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 Nipples and my lipstick.
I don't want to share with you anymore.
She's not putting her nipple in it.
She's
Putting her nipple colored lips on it.
Sorry.
So the
Verbatim.
Guess I did
no,
not.
I didn't show Big Daddy in Arizona.
Of dick. That's like I feel like anytime anyone says like I've been through a lot, that's like the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm like, yeah, of
Don't
dick.
say that right now. Don't say it. Don't say it right now. That you've been through a lot.
Please say it.
Of dick.
Say it. Say it.
I've been through a lot.
Okay, are we ready? Are we recording the audio?